Imagine you're driving in thick fog, barely able to see ahead. Suddenly your instincts shift, you slow down, turn on fog lights, and listen for any sign of other vehicles. At sea, restricted visibility caused by fog, rain, snow, or darkness creates one of the most dangerous situations for navigation. The normal rules change and every mariner must adapt. In these moments, the margin for error disappears and the stakes become enormous. Catastrophic collisions like the Andrea Doria disaster remind us why special rules exist for these conditions. Let's dive into Rule 19, the essential guide for navigating when you can't see. For radar, fog was a mariner's nightmare. Ships would anchor, sound foghorns, and hope not to be hit. Even with modern technology, restricted visibility remains perilous. Why? Because you can't visually confirm other vessels, assess their bearing, or see their actions. Radar helps, but response time is compressed, and human psychology struggles without sight. Rule 19 was created to address these realities, providing a new framework for collision avoidance when vision fails. It's not just about following rules, it's about survival in the most challenging conditions at sea. Critical distinction in maritime rules is whether vessels are in sight of each other. Rules 1317 apply when you can see another vessel with your eyes. But in fog, when you can only detect another ship on radar or AIS, Rule 19 takes over. This means even if you're approaching a fog bank and see traffic on radar, you must follow Rule 19 before you're fully enveloped. The moment you lose visual contact, the collision avoidance game changes completely. Safety demands that you err on the side of caution. Rule 19A is clear. If you can't see another vessel visually due to fog, rain, snow, or darkness, this rule governs your actions. And it's not just when you're inside the fog. If you're near or approaching an area of restricted visibility, you must comply. This proactive approach means you don't wait until you're blind. You prepare as soon as you know visibility will be limited. It's about anticipating danger and acting before it's too late. Rule 19B demands that every vessel proceed at a safe speed adapted to the conditions. In restricted visibility, this means slowing down, sometimes to a crawl. Dense fog might require speeds as low as 3-5 knots or even stopping entirely. Power-driven vessels must have engines ready for immediate maneuver, with manual controls and engineering staff on standby. There's no room for autopilot or delay. The goal is to ensure you can stop or change course in time to avoid a collision. Safe speed in fog is much slower than in clear weather. If visibility is less than half a nautical mile, you might need to slow to 3-5 knots or even stop. In moderate fog, 6-10 knots may be safe depending on your vessel's size and maneuverability. Light fog still requires a significant reduction, often 50-70% of normal speed. Why so slow? Because radar detection range is limited, and by the time you spot another vessel, you need time to assess, decide, and act. Safety always comes first. Restricted visibility, power-driven vessels must have their engines ready for immediate maneuver. This means manual control, no autopilot, and engineering staff on alert ready to respond instantly to any order from the bridge. This isn't optional, it's a critical safety requirement. Quick response can make the difference between a near miss and a disaster. Every second counts when you can't see what's ahead. Rule 19C reminds us that general navigation rules, like lookout, safe speed, and action to avoid collision, still apply in restricted visibility, but they must be adapted. For example, visual lookout is nearly useless in fog, so you rely on radar, listening for fog signals, and monitoring AIS. Risk of collision can't be judged by eye. It requires systematic radar plotting. Actions to avoid collision must be larger and earlier since the other vessel can't see or move. Adaptation is the key to safety. Clear weather, a vigilant lookout is your first line of defense, but in fog, visual lookout loses its effectiveness. Instead, you must emphasize radar plotting, listen carefully for fog signals, and monitor electronic aids like AIS and ARPA. The human ear and modern technology become your primary senses. Staying alert to every beep, signal, and sound is essential for safe navigation when you can't rely on sight. Rule 6, which covers safe speed, always applies, but in restricted visibility the standard is much stricter. You must be able to stop within half the distance you can see. If you're moving too fast to stop safely, you're violating the rule. This is why vessels often slow to crawl in dense fog. It's not just about following the law, it's about protecting lives and property. Assessing risk of collision in restricted visibility is challenging. You can't rely on visual bearings, so you must use radar plotting to track other vessels, courses, and speeds. Calculate the closest point of approach (CPA) and time to CPA (TCPA) to determine if a close quarters situation is developing. If risk exists, take action early, don't wait until it's too late. Early, decisive moves are safer than last-minute reaction. Rule 19D is the heart of restricted visibility navigation. When you detect another vessel by radar alone, you must determine if a close quarters situation or risk of collision exists. If so, take avoiding action in ample time. But there are restrictions. Don't turn to port for vessels forward of your beam unless overtaking, and don't turn toward vessels abeam or abaft your beam. These rules are designed to prevent both vessels from turning toward each other, which could lead to disaster. When radar detects another vessel, you must quickly assess whether you're on a collision course. Use radar plotting or ARPA to track their movement, calculate CPA and TCPA, and decide if action is needed. If risk is present, don't hesitate, take action early and make it obvious. Large course alterations 30 degrees or more are preferred so your intentions are clear on radar. Small, hesitant changes can be missed, increasing danger. Rule 19D specifically prohibits turning to port for vessels forward of your beam except when overtaking. Why? Because if both vessels turn to port, they move toward each other, increasing collision risk. The standard safe maneuver is to turn to starboard right for vessels ahead. This simple rule has prevented countless accidents in foggy conditions. Rule 19D, Roman 2 says you should never turn toward a vessel that is abeam directly to your side or abaft behind you. Turning toward them increases the risk of collision. Instead, maintain your course, reduce speed, or turn away if necessary. If you're uncertain about the other vessel's position, it's often safest to slow down or stop entirely. If a vessel is detected astern behind you, you have more flexibility. You may alter course in either direction to overtake or avoid them. However, always ensure your actions are clear and decisive and monitor the situation closely on radar. The key is to avoid confusion and ensure safe separation. If you're ever uncertain about another vessel's position or intentions in restricted visibility, the safest action is to reduce speed or stop. Navigating with extreme caution is not just recommended, it's required. The sea is unforgiving and hesitation or overconfidence can lead to disaster. When in doubt, always choose caution. Rule 19E addresses what to do if you hear a fog signal forward of your beam. If you hear a horn, whistle, or bell ahead, you must reduce speed to the minimum needed to maintain steerage. If necessary, stop completely. Navigate with extreme caution until the danger has passed. This rule exists because if you can hear another vessel's fog signal, they're dangerously close, often within a mile or two. Sound travels unpredictably at sea, making it hard to pinpoint where a fog signal is coming from. Rule 19E uses the word apparently to acknowledge this uncertainty. If you think the sound is ahead, even if you're not sure, you must act. Only if you're absolutely certain there's no risk of collision can you continue at speed. But that's a high bar. When in doubt, slow down or stop. It's better to be safe than sorry. Picture a container ship cruising at 18 knots in clear weather. Radar shows a fog bank 5 miles ahead with multiple targets inside. Rule 19 applies before entering the fog. The bridge team reduces speed, posts extra lookouts, switches to manual steering, and alerts the engine room. As the ship enters the fog, speed drops further, sometimes to a near stop if traffic is dense. This proactive approach is what Rule 19 demands. Cargo vessel in dense fog is making 6 knots. Radar detects a target 4 miles away, 30 degrees on the starboard bow. Plotting shows a closest point of approach of just half a mile. The officer acts immediately, altering course 40 degrees to starboard well before the ships get close. This early substantial move is exactly what Rule 19D prescribes, ensuring a safe pass and avoiding last-minute panic. Ferry in thick fog is making 8 knots when it suddenly hears a loud, prolonged blast dead ahead. The crew immediately stops the engines, brings the vessel to a halt, and sounds danger signals. They attempt VHF communication and monitor radar closely. Moments later, a fishing vessel emerges from the fog just 200 meters ahead. Thanks to Rule 19E, a collision is narrowly avoided. Tanker in fog detects a radar target directly abeam 2 miles away on a converging course. The officer knows not to turn toward the other vessel. Instead, the tanker alters 30 degrees to starboard and reduces speed, allowing the target to pass safely ahead. This careful, rule-based decision prevents a dangerous close-quarters situation. Busy traffic separation schemes like the Dover Strait, multiple vessels may be navigating in heavy fog. Rule 10 TSS still applies, requiring ships to stay in their lanes and follow traffic flow, but Rule 19 overlays these requirements. All vessels must reduce speed, use radar plotting, and take early avoiding action. No one has stand-on privileges, everyone is responsible for avoiding collisions. A common mistake is believing that radar allows you to maintain normal speed in fog. This is dangerous. Radar detection isn't instant or perfect, and it can't replace the need for safe speed. In restricted visibility, always slow down dramatically. Overconfidence in technology has led to many maritime disasters. Another error is thinking that Rules 13-17 still apply in fog. In reality, these rules only apply when vessels are in sight of each other. In restricted visibility, Rule 19 takes over. Everyone is a giveaway vessel. There are no stand-on privileges. This shift is crucial for safety in low visibility conditions. Turning to port for a vessel detected ahead is a dangerous mistake. Rule 19D forbids this except when overtaking. The correct action is to turn to starboard. This simple rule prevents both vessels from turning toward each other and risking a collision. If you hear a fog signal forward of your beam and don't stop or reduce to minimum speed, you're violating Rule 19E. Continuing at speed in this situation is extremely risky. The rule exists because hearing a fog signal means another vessel is dangerously close. Always slow down or stop when required. Making small, hesitant course changes in fog is ineffective. Other vessels can't see your actions, and radar plotting takes time to detect minor alterations. Rule 19 calls for large, decisive moves, typically 30 degrees or more, so your intentions are clear and the risk of collision is minimized. Never assume the other vessel will take action to avoid you. In fog, every vessel must act independently to prevent collisions. Relying on others is a recipe for disaster. Always take responsibility for your own safety and make the necessary moves early. Some mariners use a normal fog speed like 8 knots regardless of conditions. This is unsafe. Safe speed depends on visibility, traffic density, vessel maneuverability, and sea room. In dense fog with heavy traffic, 3 knots or even stopping may be necessary. Always adjust your speed to the situation. Violating Rule 19 can have severe legal and financial consequences. Excessive speed in fog, failing to reduce speed when hearing a fog signal, improper course alterations, and not using radar properly can all result in primary fault, negligence charges, or even criminal prosecution. Modern investigations use vessel data recorders to analyze every action, so there's no hiding mistakes. The cost of getting it wrong can be millions of dollars or worse, lives lost. After a fog collision, investigators examine whether speed was appropriate, radar was used systematically, fog signals were sounded, and actions complied with Rule 19. Vessel data recorders provide exact evidence of speed, radar contacts, course changes, and audio. This level of scrutiny means mariners must always be diligent and follow the rules precisely. Help remember Rule 19, use the acronym FOGGY, F forward fog signal, stop, O other rules adapt, G go slow safe speed, G give way everyone, Y yes to starboard don't turn to port for vessels ahead. This simple memory aid can help you recall the essentials when visibility drops. Here's the action summary: slow down, turn to starboard for vessels ahead, only maneuver away from vessels abeam or astern, plot with radar constantly, and if you hear close fog signals, stop. These actions are the backbone of safe navigation and restricted visibility. They're simple, but they save lives. One of the most important rules in fog is the prohibition on turning to port for vessels ahead. Unless you're overtaking, always turn to starboard. This prevents both vessels from turning toward each other and risking a collision. It's a simple, effective safety measure that every mariner must remember. A good rule of thumb: if you can't stop within half your visibility distance, you're going too fast. This principle is at the heart of Rule 19. It's not just about compliance, it's about giving yourself enough time and space to react to the unexpected. In fog, slower is always safer. Rule 19 isn't just about ships, it's about operating in uncertainty. When information is limited, slow down and gather data. Assume others don't see you, use technology wisely, and act early. These lessons apply to driving in fog, making decisions with incomplete information, and even designing autonomous systems. The principles of Rule 19 are universal for safety in the unknown. Those interested in autonomous vessels, Rule 19 presents unique challenges. How do sensors perform in fog? How does AI determine safe speed or interpret fog signals? Can systems decide when to stop versus proceed? Maritime AI developers are working to ensure that autonomous vessels can match or exceed human judgment in restricted visibility. The future of navigation depends on getting these answers right. Sum up: Rule 19 applies when vessels are not in sight of each other due to restricted visibility. Rules 13-17 don't apply. Everyone is a giveaway vessel. Dramatically reduce speed, have engines ready, use radar, and take early substantial action. Don't turn to port for vessels ahead, and don't turn toward a beam or abaft vessels. If you hear a fog signal ahead, slow to minimum speed or stop. Navigate with extreme caution. When in doubt, stop. Rule 19 stands out in the COLREGS because it fundamentally changes the collision avoidance paradigm. In clear weather, structured rules define who gives way. In fog, that structure disappears. Everyone must act to avoid collision. The rule's genius is its conservatism: slow down, turn away, and stop if necessary. This approach has saved countless lives since radar became standard equipment. Perhaps the most dangerous mindset in fog is believing that radar eliminates all risk. Maritime graveyards are filled with vessels whose officers thought technology made them invincible. Radar is a powerful tool, but fog remains one of the most hazardous conditions at sea. Rule 19 demands humility: acknowledge your limits and act with caution. Whether you're studying for maritime exams, developing autonomous vessel systems, or planning a boating career, Rule 19 is non-negotiable knowledge. Fog, rain, and snow are inevitable. When visibility drops, Rule 19 takes over, and your ability to apply it could save lives. In clear weather, you can afford to be confident. In fog, you can only afford to be cautious. Remember, the sea is unforgiving in fog. Slow down, plot carefully, turn to starboard for vessels ahead, and when you hear close fog signals, stop. Rule 19 is about humility, caution, and respect for the unknown. Mastering it isn't just about passing a test, it's about keeping yourself and others safe when it matters most. Armed with Rule 19 knowledge, you're ready to face the challenges of restricted visibility. Slow down, use your tools, act early, and never hesitate to stop if you're unsure. The sea demands respect, especially when you can't see. Let Rule 19 guide your actions, and you'll navigate safely through even the thickest fog.